Now this is the Nexus 5, which as of today is almost 5 years old. But something that's not 5 years old is it's running the latest stable version of Android. That is Android version 8.1 Oreo.
Taking trips, cause I never tripped on what they said. If you speaking from your heart, naysayers gon' aim for you.
Looking at the specs of this device, it's pretty laughable when you compare it with a modern day smartphone. With a measly dual-core processor and just 2 GB of RAM, it's not even close to what we get on even low-end devices. And accounting the fact that it's almost half a decade old, we were pretty skeptical at first while installing an unofficial build of Android. But to our surprise, all features worked out very well. Even the multi-window picture-in-picture mode, which is pretty RAM and CPU intensive, worked out flawlessly. And overall, the device felt snappier and was able to handle apps that would simply crash on the earlier version of Android. Although both of these devices are completely different from the outside, but from the inside, the 5-year-old Nexus 5 simply felt faster and better to use. And that really piqued our interest, so we started running a couple of tests with various versions of Android. And after crunching out some numbers, we literally concluded that with each successive version of Android, it's better optimized to run with even lower resources. So in theory, you can install and run Oreo, Android P, and everything that comes after that on almost every phone that launched after 2010. So that kind of blew away all the misconceptions that we had. I mean, as told by the manufacturers, in order to stay updated and stay secured, we need to keep on updating and keep buying new phones. But as you just saw, that's absolutely wrong. But this video is not about installing Oreo on your phone, as we already have a video on that. Links in the description. But it's rather about the larger problem that's haunting most Android users. That's slow updates. And by the end of this video, we're also going to talk about the number of things that you can do to always stay updated with the most recent version of Android, as almost 80% of all modern smartphones are still on Marshmallow or Nougat, making them pretty vulnerable. Now folks, one thing that you'll have to remember is updates are not always about getting new features or better aesthetics, but it's more about the security patches that come along with these updates. I mean, if your device is on an outdated version of Android, then it's pretty vulnerable of being remotely hijacked. I mean, trust me guys, it's easier than you think. Now in order to stay always updated, let's first talk about how updates work. Now usually, by the end of each year, around Christmas, the next big version of Android is made public by Google, which if you don't know, owns Android. Now since Android is an open source project, almost anyone with a computer can have their hands on the source code of Android. So in theory, even you can download the raw Android files, run it through a software called as the Android Kitchen, and have the latest build of Android running on your phone within hours. But that usually never happens, as manufacturers often sit on the updates for around 3 to 4 months so that they can bundle the update with their forthcoming flagship phones. Now at this point in the video, some of you guys might be wondering, why do they do that? I mean, why do manufacturers put the safety of their customers at risks? Well, simply said, it's all about so the phone that you paid premium price for just 6 to 8 months back suddenly starts feeling outdated, as the interactable part on your device, that's the Android operating system, just got obsolete. And by the time the version of Android finally rolls into your phone, if it does, it's already 6 to 8 months after the update was released by Google. And by then we start hearing about the next big version of Android coming soon. So by the time most people get updated, the update is already outdated. I mean folks, just think about it. With the resources and the workforce that manufacturers have, it should take maybe a couple of days or weeks to make the update available on your device. Now this is basically a marketing strategy, kind of a sales gimmick that manufacturers use to sell us new phones. Now remember, if you bought a phone in the past 2 years, then it's fast enough to run anything that you throw at it for the next 5 years. And that's because the hardware is developing at a really rapid pace, but the software is really lagging behind. I mean, just ask yourself, when was the last time you used the entire 3 or 4 GB of RAM that came on your phone? Almost never, right? But on the other side, manufacturers are trying to sell us phones with 6 or 8 GB of RAM. You get it, marketing gimmicks. That's the only reason why I don't do product reviews, because if something is working, if something gets the job done, then why tempt people to update to a new phone every 6 months? Because here at the Android Guy, our primary focus is to show you guys how to get the best out of a device. So the investment that you made on your shiny new phone always stays shiny. So in order to stay updated, you can do a couple of things next time you buy a new phone. Like, if you want to be the first person to get the latest version of Android before anyone else does, and most importantly, if you have the money for it, then get yourself a Google Pixel phone. Now, Pixel devices usually gets updated almost 6 to 8 months before it's been made public. So you are always gonna be the first guy to get the taste of the new update for Android before anyone else does, at least for the next 2 years. But if you are alright if the update rolls out a couple of months late, then you can get yourself a Google One supported device. Now, Google One supported devices runs on a near stock vanilla version of Android, which is quite similar to what you find on Pixel phones. So it's usually easier for the manufacturers to push the updates, as most of the things are already being taken care of by Google. And next time when you're out in the market buying a new phone, make sure to get a phone with a large support community. Devices from OnePlus One, Motorola, Nexus, Xiaomi, and even a couple of Samsung devices usually get the latest version of Android in the form of a custom ROM way before it's been officially released.